Hey, good morning. Welcome to the Good Life Meditation. My name is Kurt, and this is my daily activity to remember my life objectives and principles, those which are outlined in my book, Going Alone. I'm here in the chimney with my dog Rudy. He's sitting here right by my side. Whoop, sorry, Rudy. And we are on an adventure today. It's an adventure day. So I'm stopping midway. We just had breakfast. I just stopped at Lawson. I'm parked in the Lawson parking lot with my mega latte. Let's get started. So this is an exercise I do to remember my life objectives and principles, like I said. I also use the time to think about the last 24 hours and how I did with any interesting, noteworthy challenges or opportunities that I met. I review the 8 objectives of my creed and the 35 principles, and I go over any the plan for the day. So let's get started in earnest. First of all, welcome. Hi, new subscribers. Boy, there are a lot of new subscribers. Hello to all of you. If we haven't met, I'm Kurt. I'm an American, 61 years old, retired, living in Japan, in the Shizuoka area, down by Mount Fuji. I live kind of in the Satoyama, which is that kind of that border area between the countryside and the more rural. More suburban, it's like a suburban area right on the countryside. My wife is Japanese. She's the same age as me. She's retired too, and we're here endeavoring to make our best life, settling in after almost 4 decades together, splitting our time nearly equally between Japan and America, raising our daughter between both places. She's grown, 24, living her best life now up in Tokyo. That's by way of introduction. Disclaimer, I will talk about my own death shortly. I do this in every video, so just to let you know, because that makes some people uncomfortable. And don't worry, I'm not necessarily dying that I know of, but we're all dying. So I work to prepare for that. Then also, thank you so much to all of you, my supporters. You, by virtue of watching this video, by being a member on YouTube, and those particularly who support me on Patreon, you bought me this Mega Mocha. You bought me a lot this morning. You bought me this Mega Mocha, which is 360 yen, which is like, $1.75. Amazing deal. Then I had breakfast before that at Sukiya for 600 yen, which is like $3, right? Yeah, almost exactly three. One, two. If $1.50, if 150 yen is $1, that'd be $4. You bought me my breakfast for $4, which was really good. And then you bought me 1,000 yen worth of gasoline to put in the car so I can get out to where I'm doing an adventure today. So thank you. Thank you so much for that. You literally fuel my adventures. Okay, let's get started. So I will read and respond to comments, but after I'm done with my little soliloquy here. First, I'm going to do 3 things now. I'll talk about yesterday, the last 24 hours since I made this video yesterday at the same time. Then I'll talk about, I'll go over my creed, and then I'll talk about the day to come. Now, I have 3 notes that I had for yesterday, and I wrote them down on my phone. The problem is this is the phone, so I can't look them up while I make this video, but it was something to do with, oh yeah, remember, the first one is improved communication timing. Now, what I'm usually after when I'm reviewing the day is stumbling points, moments in the day where life caught me off guard, and I want to see how did I respond. Did I react well with aplomb? Was I principled in my due diligence and execution of my responses? That's a long way of saying, did I respond well? Did I live well? Did I do good? Did I live up? Did I measure up to my own standard? And if not, how could I improve? And if I did, what was it about my response that was in accord with my values that I can try to contribute to do more in the future? Now, as I've said in previous videos, my life is becoming so simple now that I no longer work, and now that the house is bought and the remodeling is done, and my wife and I have just kind of settled into this halcyon days of approach of summer. It's very spring-like. I run around the house in my shorts, barefoot, shirtless, all day long, with this air blowing through the house and out to the garden and down to the river. It's quite an amazing thing. And I hope I'm not conveying this by way of sounding like I'm bragging. If anything, I want it to be a forecast for those of you who are planning the same thing. I prepared for retirement since I was 20, and it was that preparation. It was a hopeful preparation, that someday I would get to the point that I wouldn't have to be beholden to anybody to have to work anymore. And I want to tell you, just convey to you, that if you can survive long enough, if you can make it to this age and keep your health intact and your mind intact, it really can be a wonderful thing. It takes a lot of work, and you really do have to be diligent about storing the money away throughout life to make sure that you get to this point and you're not in a position where you have to keep on working. But if you get here, when you get here, let's do it. It can be really, really something else. It's a little bit tricky the first couple of months, finding our way, finding our foot in freedom. It's like a prisoner being released from the prison cell and shoved out the front door of the prison with a change of clothes and a bus ticket and whatever possessions they had when they went in. It's like, freedom! Oh crap, now what, right? That's what it's like for the first few months of retirement. But once you get past that, it gets pretty good. And you get to that stage where those who go before are always leaning in when they learn that, you're in your 50s and you're closing in on the 60s. They kind of lean in a conspiratorial tone and say, don't wait to get here. Get here as quick as you can. Come on in, the water is good. But they don't say that to the younger people because you don't want to make them feel bad because they're still young, and also because it sounds like it's rubbing it in. So if I'm saying these things, it's not because I'm trying to make you feel bad if you're young or rub it in. I want to broadcast more loudly that, retirement can be an amazing thing. But it takes a concerted effort to get there, like most of the best things in life. So yesterday, what I'm saying is I don't have a lot that's happening now because my life has become pretty simple and easy. Although there was something interesting that happened yesterday that I'll share with you that I'm still trying to sort out. Let me take a sip of my Mega Mocha. So yesterday I was going through my email, as I do, part of my morning routine. I try to catch up on all email and all comments on YouTube and elsewhere on social media before breakfast. I was going through it, and it came to, well, my eyes kind of went like this. It was a customer of mine. Now, I worked in the government before, so I worked for, I think it's the 10th largest county in the United States, Riverside County. I think they have like 35,000 employees. It's like an enormous corporation. And I worked for the IT. Imagine if like you have an IT department for the entire county, and this is literally what it was, called RCIT. And we have like something between 400 and 600 employees just doing IT for the county. I was a project manager for that group, and they would assign me to the various departments, right? There's departments all around the county, and I would do, on average, 3 projects concurrently at any one time. So I treat those other departments, even though we are all under the same umbrella of the county, as my customers. So I got an email yesterday from one of my customers from the last project that I had before I retired. Now, I brought that project to closure. Part of the reason that I waited to retire when I did was I didn't want to leave the project as the project manager midway, right? I don't want to okay, we're 5 months from being done. I'm out of here. Good luck to y'all. No, I don't want to do that. So I stuck around. Well, there was other reasons as well. That wasn't all altruism. I stuck around till the end. But then they morphed into what's phase, I called phase 2, right? There was this other body of work. We finished the main body of work, and then there's this other body of work. We were deploying a new system into the organization, and so we got the system deployed. That was phase 1. And phase 2 is the optimization and the next step, configuration, etc., customizing it, making it more optimized for that organization. I left between stage 1 and stage 2, well, a little after stage 1. Stage 1 was finished, and I kind of hung around long enough. I was kind of hoping that, they would just kind of hand off everything that I did to them and move on. Anyway, the email was yesterday from one of my from the customer that, the department. just, writing, and we've become friends, just writing and saying, hey, Kurt, because I'd left everybody my email address. Hey, Kurt, how you doing? How's Japan? I hope it's all going well. This particular person doesn't do social media, so they have no idea. They don't, watch, they don't follow on LinkedIn, because I post everywhere. And then they gave me a quick status summary of the project. And then hope all is well. It's great to hear from you. And off they went. And that left me kind of, and I was like, wait a minute, what just happened here? It was like my old life came knocking on the door and came right in the house. And hey, how's your life going on around here? Wow, by the way, the project is X, Y, Z. Yeah, yeah, this is what's going on. Yeah, well, okay, take care. See you later, Kurt. I'm back across the ocean. It's like, what? What just happened here? Now, I was grateful for all of that because I really enjoyed that project. As much as, hear me complain about my work, and it's not the work itself. It's, the things that I was doing as an IT project manager in the government were really, really good things. I was making the world a better place. Mostly I worked for the Department of Public Social Services, making the world safer for children at risk, seniors at risk, and the homeless. But I did work for a number of different agencies. But so it was a welcome email from my friend / coworker / customer. So I composed my response, and I was a little surprised at the end when I added, quite deliberately, let me know if you need me. I've got lots of time. Now, that didn't come out of thin air. When I left, and remember I said I finished phase 1 and we were ramping up phase 2, there was very deliberate talk within the organization that they might be interested in having me come back after I got settled in Japan to in a part-time role for that same project. But the big hurdle was that organization HR rules would required at least a 3-month inner break between doing that. If I was to exit as a full-time employee, and if I wanted to come back in any capacity, I would have to wait 3 months. Now it's been 6 months, so that has passed. And basically, and I had remembered that all along, and I thought, well, I'll leave it in their court. If they need me, then they'll reach out to me. They know that I left the door open for that. And they didn't reach out after 3 months, so I figured, well, I guess everything's going good. Well, I got contacted yesterday. So when I put the response in, I put in, let me know if you need me. But I didn't do that until first I talked to Yumiko to make sure that she was all right with that as well. What that means is that if, for example, that message was the first reach out to me to say, hey, Kurt, hope all is well. Here's the project. Is there any chance you're interested in still managing it on a part-time basis from Japan? He didn't say that, the person that wrote to me. But if that's the case, then I've responded and clarified my interest in doing that. And I would be interested in doing that. And I've already got the logistics figured out. I wake up at 4 a.m. every morning, which roughly corresponds to midday in California. So if I was to do this and I was to work like 4 hours a day in a part-time basis, I couldn't, the rules wouldn't allow me to work more than I think it's 19 hours a week. So if I was to work in a part-time capacity in that regard, I could easily do that. Wake up at 4 a.m., start work at 5, 2 hours to 7, take the dogs for a walk with Yumiko at 7, have breakfast, back at 8, 9, 10, work until 10, and then call it a day every day. Now, as an IT project manager, this is really easy for me. I don't have anything that I do necessarily. A good project manager doesn't do the work. A good project manager organizes the work, rallies the team around an identified goal, clarifies what the goal is, what the purpose of the project is, identifies the scope, the schedule, the budget, all the constraints, risks, etc., comes up with a contract, like the Supreme Court in a way interprets the contract as well, and then executes. So, and since I already know the dang project, and I actually wrote all the scope for phase 2 as well. I mean, I did all of that already for the phase 2 that they're doing right now. So, and I kept all that documentation. I brought it with me to Japan just in case this might happen. The only thing I don't have is a computer, because I didn't bring one with me. I was thinking of getting rid of that. So if this comes around, and if they do need my help, and we can navigate the hurdles of HR, then maybe this would happen, and I would welcome that. I would welcome it on a number of fronts. One, I kind of miss it, yeah, and it's not because I'm running away from retirement. As I said in the preamble here, I'm just beginning to really settle into this and finding my way. I'm really enjoying being retired. This is really, really nice. But doing this would be a welcome, if it was just like half a day, every day, 4 hours or less a day, just enough time to saunter into the meetings. Because what I would do, I'd be waking up, I would arrange all the team meetings to be in the afternoon in California, and I could probably handle this project with two regular meetings a day, one team meeting and another one team meeting with the customer, another team meeting with the back end team, and then piecemeal meetings as needed, and the rest of the hours would be spent managing the logistics of it all, the paperwork, the documentation, email, or all sorts of correspondence, impromptu teams meetings, etc. The other reason I'd enjoy it is that we had a pretty significant capital outlay in this year in buying the house. We deliberately waited to buy the house until we made it for an interesting thing when we bought this house, because we needed to pay for the in entirety, because we made a cash offer by January 31st, but we didn't want to pull the money out of our investments in America until after January, so that it would be taxable in 2025 when I'm retired, and both of us are retired, and our tax basis would be a lot less. And we did that, which made for an interesting, we had about 3 weeks to get the money across, and we were worried that, that moving such a large amount of money might cause flags. Anyway, I'm way off target to say that because of that, our tax liability then for the money that we used to buy the house and do the renovations, although I did have a good portion of the taxes removed when I pulled the money out of the investments. I had taxable part set aside. We're gonna face a pretty big tax bill for this year when we file our taxes in 2026. So, if I was to work for 3 months, 6 months, managing this project, that would help with that. And it would also be a nice boost to this life here to help us to do a few more renovation items that are on our list. We'll see. It may come to nothing. It may be that that email that I got was nothing more than it appeared, a casual howdy ho, Kurt, and hope all was well in Japan, and here's the status of the project. But we'll see. Either way, I'm okay with it, as one says in life, right? But if I were to tell you my preference, just between you and me, I hope it goes through. I hope it happens. I hope that this happens. I would like to get back in the game, and it's not because I'm fed up of being retired. It's because there's a lot of intangibles about it, right? For one, it's like saying, bicycle racing. This is something I don't do and I've never done, but it's like if you rode bicycles in races, or marathons or whatever the heck it is, and then you did it and you kind of wore yourself out by 5, 6, 10 seasons of bicycle riding or marathon running. And you say, oh man, I'm going to retire from this bicycle riding or marathon running. And then you retire for 6 months and you're like, I kind of, as hard as that was good. And maybe I'll get back into it. Professional athletes do that, right? They'll retire, and it doesn't mean necessarily that the retirement didn't suit them, but they might miss, in a way, being in the fray of it all. We'll see. I'll keep you posted about what happens. All right, so that was a long way to say about that. There was 3 notes that I had regarding yesterday. One was smoother communication. What I mean by that is I'm noticing that now that the cacophony of noise and distraction and mandate has lifted and disappeared, it's like a quietude has settled on life. I find myself able to respond more deftly and in a more considered manner and far more patient than ever before. My communication with my wife, my family, even in there, I was just in Lawson Station now talking to the guy in there, and all in Japanese. Even that was all going smoother. So that's just an interesting point. It's not a challenge that I face. It's an interesting observation. There he is. He's just coming out now. So that's one thing for sure. So there were two other notes, and I forgot what they were because it's been 15 minutes, 20 minutes since I started, and I can't remember. So let's go now to the creed. The creed is the objectives and principles outlined in my book, Going Alone. There are 8 objectives and 35 principles. You can read about them all at goingalone.org at the chapter titled The Good Life. The 8 objectives are what I'm after today, and these consist of the following 8 things. 1, I told you I was going to talk about death. I want to always be ready to die. I need to have my life's affairs in order. I need my relationships to be in the best shape that I can have them in. And I need my life's work to be complete or not a mess. And they check, they all are. Number 2, second objective, to make good and effective use of time, to utilize my time in such a way that I'm not wasting it, that I'm not feeling like today, at the end of the day, that it frittered away. 3, to develop and maintain good and sound life principles, precisely those codified in my book, and to make sure that they stay fresh, that they're attended to, and that I'm not letting myself just rest on what worked in the past, but adjusting my values even in accordance with what maturity is yielding in terms of improved understanding, greater scope of experience, and opportunity. Number 4 is to cultivate good emotional reactions. Like, for example, when I was just at the Sukiya right there, and I told you, well, I didn't tell you this. I was at Sukiya just now, and I had my 600 yen breakfast, and I always do this. I have this little coin purse, and I'm the kind of person that when I'm at Sukiya, and I was talking to the woman behind the counter, and even though this is the machine, I can do it all with the machine, and I had this open, and remember, I'm talking about good emotional reactions. And I told her, arigatou gozaimasu. And I said, it really was good. I mean, for 600 yen, you can get an incredible meal at Sukiya, and it's so good. And I always do this. It's either at the convenience store or the restaurants. Somehow I managed to fumble my change dish, and all this change went flying through the air, scattered all over the machine, the counter, rolling across the counter, back in the kitchen, and sent this woman, the staff woman I was talking to, in the back picking up change. I'm all over the place picking up change. Now, the objective is good emotional reactions. Now, I could feel the fluster rising in me as in the embarrassment, which were duly deserved, right? I mean, be more careful, dude. You seem to do this every week somewhere. The guys at the mini stop that I've been going to, it's become so common for me to scatter my change there that they almost stand there waiting to have to pick it up. But good emotional reactions. I could feel it in the moment as it was happening. The little voice inside me, the background daemon inside my head was like, "Oh, here we go again, Kurt." And just be careful. Just pick it all up. Thank her profusely for her assistance. Make sure to look under the thing. I sure did. I looked down there. I found an extra 100 yen down under the corner there. Pick it all up and go on your way. I was able to, in the very moment that it was happening, be outwardly the right, contrite, apologetic, embarrassed self that I was, while at the same time on the inside, remaining in self-control, almost putting on a show and a display, not disingenuous, fully genuine, but not out of control, not disproportionate to the incident. That a little anecdote that I just shared is how I'm striving, utilizing this objective to live throughout the day, every single day. Also, by going over it every day as I do in this vlogging exercise. I've got it forefront in mind. I don't have to think about it. It's like a tool. And I talk about the principles in particular of my creed as like being a tool belt that hangs off my side. And at any one moment, I'm lifting apathy. I'm lifting temperance. I'm rising the sense of principle of family, or of or of reason, or of war, which is another one of the principles. They're immediate. They're hanging there ready to go at a moment's notice. That's what doing this on a daily basis does. Having them simply written and then put onto a shelf, I'd quickly forget about them, and they would become as useless to me as free weights to a man who doesn't actually exercise, right? They're just free weights sitting on the ground, a nice token nod and idea about the physical fitness that could be achieved without putting in the good time of doing the actual work. That was principle number 4. Number 5 is to perform good actions relative to my creed. This means that throughout the day, as I'm making decisions, my decisions abide the values that I hold and help to further the objectives that I'm attempting to promote into the world. Number 6 is to recognize my true limits and my true opportunities, so that I can see what is capable and what is not incapable. For example, let me just harken back to the start of this. For those that just arrived, I had the big thing that happened yesterday was work appeared. My career in America came back knocking on the door in an email that I got yesterday, which could result potentially in me going back to work part-time for my old employer to help out with a project that I ran as a project manager there. Not sure that this is going to happen. I'll have to see if they actually need it. It could be, but it was a very interesting solicitous email that they sent me, and the timing was just so interesting. Now, remember, what I'm saying right now is that I want to. The principle I'm talking about here is recognizing true opportunity, true limits, and true opportunity. Now, I got the email. Now, fortunately, it was an email. I had to think about it. I was alone at the time. So I went through my mind. I said, well, one, Kurt, limits and opportunity, hashtag limits. That's the keyword that I use for this one. Kurt, have you still got what it takes? If you were to go back, if you were to take up your project again, do you still have what it takes? And I thought about it, realistically. Yes, it's only been 6 months. I was the project manager for that project before. I brought it to successful phase 1 conclusion. They're now in the startup, or 6 months into phase 2 of the project. I wrote the charter for phase 2. I wrote the scope. I wrote the plan for it. So yeah, I know that project, and I haven't lost my skills. I know all the team members. I can do that. So is it within my limits? Yes, it is within my limits. Being project manager of that project again is something that I can still do. Now, if I had waited 5 years from now and that came back, probably not. My reach, my ability, my skill set, my cognition, my maturity level even perhaps might not be able to reach to get back to where I was. And I know that from my past experience. When I went back to America 10 years ago to take up my career in IT after a 10-year absence, I was not qualified for the job. It took me 2 years to get myself back up to speed. But 6 months in, I could do it. So limits, yeah, I could do it. Opportunity, well, that's on their hands now. So that email that I got yesterday seemed like testing the waters. So I responded back and basically said, doing great, Japan's good, glad to hear the project's underway. If you still need help, let me know. And now it's in their court. So that's the principle, the objective of recognizing true limits and true opportunity, so that and then of course talking to my wife before I responded to the email to make sure she was cool with all of this, which she is. So that's what I mean by having that objective in mind of recognizing true limits and true opportunity. Then I'm making decisions and taking actions that are in accordance with my capabilities, my interest, the interest of those around me involved in my life, and in proportion to my virtue, to my values, namely the pursuit of virtue, where virtue is defined as the improvement of the well-being of thinking creatures. Almost done. Number 7 is to do just one thing at a time and do that thing slowly, deliberately, and carefully. A little bit tricky to do when you're milking a mega latte from Lawson as I am right now. But I need the caffeine. I've got a big day ahead of me, adventure day. Okay, number 8, the 8th objective is to keep my balance in both body and mind so that I'm not stumbling through life as much as I once did. Those are the 8 objectives. Now let's go over, read one of the principles. I think yesterday we left off with, was it Temperance? Let's see. These are all listed in the book. It wasn't the pirate ride, the principle of maturity, the social principle, not family, public speaking. I was Temperance, yeah. So, no, I was life will not go well. So today I'm going to do the horror show. That's a terrible sounding principle. The principle of the horror show. Remember yesterday's principle, and I arranged these principles deliberately in order. Yesterday's principle was life will not go well, which is a really valuable principle for me to keep in mind because it basically suggests that we're going to stumble. Entropy is the fact. Entropy is a thing, right? Things are falling to pieces. We are falling to pieces. Plans are falling to pieces. Life is going to put obstacles in our way. We're going to stumble. We're going to fall. This is to be expected. That's what the life will not go well principle suggests. And I use it all the time. Anytime I stumble and struggle in life over the unexpected, when life gives me a twist and a turn that I didn't expect, I remember that. Now, the horror show is the next level up, okay? Life is definitely not going to go to well if you live long enough to experience enough life. The horror show may or may not happen very often in our lives, but it will come to all of us eventually. And here's the definition of it. The horror show. The recognized consequence of a universe unfolding beyond reach of our care or ministrations, and the awful evidence that there is no overarching management or oversight beyond the descriptive record we make and share with one another of how things operate, and the necessity which physics, chemistry, and time does seemingly demand of us all. It's just basically a simple way of saying that the world is unfolding in ways that are beyond our control. There doesn't appear to be any God. The best that we have is the efforts that we make to codify, to record the best practices that we learn amongst our own lives and then share that record with one another. At last, we stand with our hands at our sides and our mouths agape and our minds at wit's end at the unfolding tale of what is moves on without notice or care of what? Hold on. Is this a typo? At last, we stand with our hands at our sides and our mouths agape and our minds at wit's end as the unfolding tale of what is moves on without notice or care of what we want or think is good or right or simply humane. It's not a typo. It's exactly how I meant it to write it. So at one point we reach our lives, we're like, just stunned at what is moves and how it moves on without notice or care of what we want. Our interests seem to be of zero interest or consequence to the universe at large, or what we think is good or right or simply humane. We can protest, we can say, but that's not right. The universe at large doesn't give a damn. Cancer sucks. Universe doesn't care about that kind of stuff, right? We can apply our best science and our best tools and methodologies to those things, but chemistry and physics and time will have their way. It seems. It just moves forward, leaving everyone behind. We will all be left behind in the wake of horror. So the horror show builds upon the idea that life will not go well to say that, yeah, life is not going to go well. There's going to be a lot of good stuff, hopefully, but there's going to be a lot of crappy stuff too. And then every once in a while, horror will step in. And horror is simply a subjective label applied to things that are seemingly more than any of us can handle. The tragic death of a loved one. And I used to I don't do this anymore. It was too hard an exercise. Some of the Stoics in the past would rehearse the horror, right? They would rehearse, like Marcus Aurelius would write about in meditations about thinking about his children dying, or his wife leaving, or whatever the case would be, recounting one after another, practicing rehearsing horror in the mind as a way to, if not dull, because the Stoics weren't trying to dull themselves from these things. They were trying to prepare themselves so that they could maintain their their composure, their balance in the face of these things. Like Stilbo, who I talked about yesterday, walking from the smoking ruins of the city with his home and business and burned to the ground, his wife and children dead, and coming up to the conqueror and the conqueror asking Stilbo, "What have you lost?" And Stilbo simply replies, "I have all my goods with me." And then the conqueror says, I have destroyed the city, but Stilbo has conquered me." So the conqueror recognized the Stoic virtue of self-control, of recognizing what is and what is not within our control. That's what the horror show is. I did that for a while. I even did it in a few videos. Oh my gosh, the uproar that I got about that, people did not like that at all. They did not like that, so I stopped doing it. And I stopped doing it not because of the uproar so much, because this is my own thing. I can do whatever I want here. I did it because it was too hard for me to. Yeah. Maybe someday I'll be strong enough to do that. Brings us to the last part. What am I doing today? It's an adventure day. I'm trying to do an adventure every week. I have picked out the guys at Akiamart, Joseph and Take, who have become kind of my friends. They gifted me a free Akiamart account. Akiamart is a website. Akia-mart.com is a website for finding many of those 9 million vacant homes, plus other real estate listings here in Japan. And this is a commercial, by the way. They're not sponsors of my channel, but I like the guys, and they gave me a free damn account, so I guess it is a commercial. I didn't ask for it. They just wrote to me and said I was a power user because I keep talking about their site, because that's how they facilitated my house hunt here in Japan. Anyway, so it's a very nice English friendly, it's an English website, does the automatic currency conversion. The listings are updated daily. It has lots of features. It's about $20 a month, I think, for the subscription, something like that. You can have the saves, the favorites. It's a lot of fun to browse the interactive map and find these old houses. And so what I've been doing is I've been picking a house. This is a catalyst to get me into the countryside. I pick a house that I really like, and then I go there, drive the Jimny out there, which I'm doing today with Rudy, and I'm going to wrap a softypapa adventure around that. I'll go out to see the house, review the house, take a video tour around it, walk around the community, and then have some other adventures along the way. That's what I'm doing today. And it was so interesting. Yumiko was so nice. She got everything. She seems to be very excited to see me out and about. She packed a breakfast for Rudy and wished me well. And I'm off to start the day. And with that, let's go ahead and read comments, and then I'm going to head out and do my thing. Oh, there's lots of comments. Whiskey, hey, morning, mate. Just had a colon cancer scare this week. Oh, no. Change in bowel habits and investigated online that it might be too late if you have symptoms. What a shock. So rushed for a colonoscopy. Well, I'm good. I hope that it's just a scare. Yeah, that's nothing to mess with, huh? Reminds me that I need to do the same. When I was working in the States, they would send me those little pooper kits. You know the type, maybe, and you mail it in. Those were really nice. I don't do that now that I'm left. Wishing you all the best, Whiskey. All was okay, but spreading the good word. Get screened, age 50 plus. Gotcha. Got the word. Everybody, get your butt checked. Sorry, I don't mean to sound flippant with something so serious. I just can't help it. I've had too much caffeine. But seriously, get your rear end checked. Do whatever it is to make sure that's done. I hear that you don't have to do the poopy screening thing anymore. It's quite the same way, but they're changing the technology. Especially in Japan, the cost is like 5,450 yen, $30. I'm going to talk to Yumiko about it today when we get home. Second most common cancer in U.S. and Japan has colonoscopy clinics everywhere. Spread the news. Will do. Penguin 651, morning. My old employer has contacted me 3 times since I retired, asking if I would come back. Not a chance. I worked there for 42 years. Kind of flattering, but nope, Tim. Yeah, that's how I felt kind of as well. Although the email that I got wasn't explicitly asking it. But it was awfully suspicious because the email was, "Hey Kurt, hope Japan is going good." That was the first paragraph. The second paragraph, "Here's the state of the project." I'm not going to give the details. Blah 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 blah. Hope all is well. Sincerely, in this person's name. And I'm like, okay, I know you well enough. Because part of the problem, okay, no, I don't want to give any details. But that is flattering if that's the case, right? Missy Boo, Whiskey says, "I'm so glad that everything turned out good and there. Thanks for spreading the message. You must have been so scared." Whiskey responds, "Yeah, frightened. It's 100% avoidable through screening." Wow, yeah, that would be something else to yeah. I'm reminded of Steve Jobs, right? Good morning, Kurt. Hi, Robert saying hi to everybody. And by the way, Robert is believing yourself. Believing yourself is Robert, if I'm referring to that person. And sometimes there's a Robert in here as well, which confounds things. Whiskey says, thanks to Missy Boo. Will says, "Ohayo gozaimasu." Good morning to you, Will. Ohayo-san. Missy Boo says, "Good morning, BYI." Before believing yourself. So, Robert, you have 3 monikers: believing yourself, BYI, and Robert. Hello, Will. Robert responds, "Penguin. Morning to everybody. 10:20 here in the UK." Missy Boo says, "Sorry, I got the initials wrong. Good morning, BIY." Look good to me. Missy Boo says, "Whiskey, we don't have those tests in the UK. However, they are now starting to screen people over the age of 55 by analyzing poo samples." That's how they do it in the States too. I gave you the little kit. It would show up in the mail every once in a while, and and you have to like do the smear thing and then send it in, right? Yes, Penguin says, "Yes, bowel cancer screening every 2 years now in the UK for over 55s. Good thing." Tokyo Sam, "Hey Sam, good morning, gang. Missy Boo, good morning, Sam." Robert says, "Morning to Sam." Sam says, good morning, fellow people of culture." Sam says, "I like these morning talks with Kurt because it helps me remember I'm not the only one who has these thoughts, like, was I in emotional control and did I use my time effectively, etc." Yeah, Sam, I think that they're common human um, considerations, especially by those of us that are trying to live a deliberate life, right? I mean, a lot of people seem to come into life and they're like born into the world, and then suddenly it's like, where the hell am I? And what the hell is all of this that's going on? And they get into adulthood and they're like, okay, I'm gonna find a nice place. And they don't explicitly think this. I'm gonna find a nice routine to settle into and wait this out, right? Like, get a nice job, 9 to 5, get a house, get some shows, get some politics, get some sports, whatever, my newspaper, my routine, my Sunday morning coffee place, and just do my time until I check out, right? And then you can add to that, add your religion, right? So that you have an idea about what's going to happen afterwards, right? And then just wait it out. And then there's the others of us that, and these are not mutually exclusive. It's not like there's one and the other. There's a lot of overlap, who are like, what the heck is this? Oh, it looks like I'm going to be here, if I'm lucky, for 7-8 decades. How can I make the best use of this opportunity to try to figure out what the hell this is all about, right? And then have a lot of fun along the way. It sounds like you're one of those, Sam. Whiskey says, "Kurt, it costs 5,280 yen, mate. Get in a clinic now if you haven't done it yet." I haven't done it yet, but I got checked just before I came to Japan. And I will. I definitely will. Whiskey, I have to make an appointment to get one done. Sam says, "And Kurt is surrounded by love with his wife, dogs, daughter, and he spends his time enjoying his life. Still curious, still exploring, and I wish to have that inner peace. I'm getting there, though." Good luck to you, Sam. I wish you, I think that you're living a lot of the peace that I feel and contentment. And don't get me wrong, there's a lot of turmoil in my life and a lot to work on. But it comes in many ways from having lived a deliberate life. Like, I don't look back on the past and feel like there's a lot of wasted time. I feel like I was really living in earnest all of my 61 years to date for the most part. And there's a great satisfaction and peace that comes of feeling like life has been lived well. Like when if I discover that, for example, that I'm gonna die soon, I won't feel like I've left a lot of cards on the table. That's what being prepared for death is. That's what going over that idea every single day does for me. It's like, if today's the day, am I ready to go? And as I like to say it, Sam, am I ready to depart life without a single backwards glance? Because the backwards glance means looking back either in memory but also in regret, right? It's like, what if I had only done, what if I had only said, etc. And I don't want, if I can avoid it, I don't want that on the table. I want to be able to die now, immediately, and have my world and my relationships and my affairs and my life's work in a settled state of peace. Robert says, you'll get there, Tim. You're a good man. He is a good man. Whiskey says, honestly, get it done, yeah? No symptoms is scary, and they will remove precancerous lesions, giving you an all clear and avoid future cancer, possibly. Thank you, Whiskey. Missy Boo says, Sam, I hope that you find peace soon. I think that Sam has a lot of peace. I hope you don't mind me speaking for you, Sam, but I'm kind of a fanboy. I watch you from the side. I don't leave a lot of comments because I tend to just listen to a lot of videos and just kind of listen to the side, and my auto thing just skips on to the next one. But I like your videos, Sam. I think Sam, you live a very deliberate life, very engaged. You're not leaving much in the way of cards on the table, and brutally intelligently examined life. I mean, both. A lot of people use because you have a fine intellect, Sam. A lot of people apply that intellect externally to the world at large, and sometimes in a very critical manner. Hashtag trolls. A lot of trolls are out there. The comments, people leave comments. It's usually telling more about what's going on in their lives than the lives that the people that they're talking to. But Sam, I see you all the time taking your intellect and turning it around, or maybe you're looking in the mirror back at yourself and applying it. If you're not saying it explicitly, you're clearly doing so. You're deliberating over the interesting, meaningful stuff in life. And to me, whether or not my mind is in peace, if my mind is usefully engaged, that's a better measure. So to kind of reflecting back on what you said, Missy Boo, for me, I would rather than peace, because I don't think I'll ever really find peace, although I'm getting something that looks a hell of a lot like peace right now. I would rather have a sense of satisfaction that this instrument between my ears was well utilized during the time in which its faculties were available to me. Whiskey says, Kurt, hang out and enjoy life. I had many friends work until it's too late and never relaxed and enjoyed their final years. I hear you too as well. I won't relate stories, but I've had some very, very scary and sad things happen in the circle of my life as well. People who waited and then just retired and died. But would it? Okay, Whiskey though. If I choose, and I don't even know if this is happening. If they are, reaching out to me to see if I'm available, and I choose to do it because I want to do it, is that any different than simply choosing to enjoy my retired life deliberately? The key difference is, unlike before where I had to work, this would be a case where I would choose to work, and just part-time, and only for 3 to 6 months, because that's what we had talked about before. Before I left and came to Japan, I had discussed this with the team, and they said, well, Kurt, after 3 months or so, if you're available, maybe you can come back and work for 3 to 6 months and help us out with phase 2. I mean, if I choose to do that, isn't that me making my own choice about the best use of my time? And if I make it in concert with my wife. Missy Boo, Sam says, Missy Boo, thanks. I have it for the most part, but moving to the countryside and having a family, that's the next step for me. That's a surprise to me, Sam, not the family part. I think you'll make a great father, man. The countryside part, because you seem like such an urban an urban creature, right? But don't get me, I mean, Sam, I think you'd make a great dad because you you'd be, you know what you'd be, Sam? I hope you'll take this in the right light. Okay, I have to stop touching the screen for a second. I need to say this very carefully. Um, Sam, I think you'd be, because I know that you value family, and I know that you don't take, you wouldn't take fatherhood for granted. If you chose to become a father, I know that that would rise to the top as your first priority in life. But you wouldn't give up being you. You're more than capable of supporting yourself and your family. I know you're able to do that, so that won't be an issue. You will, that I know that just from what I think about you, that will become your first priority. But you won't give up being you, which means that your kid or kids are going to have the benefit of having Sam, you, a fascinating, fun, interesting, dynamic human being as their father, while also having a father who really cares about it. And one of the benefits is that you've waited until your current age, which has allowed you to get through a lot of the other stuff, to realize that you know that in the end, you know, having raised a child and done that well is no better. There's no better thing in life than that. I think you'd be a great dad, Sam. Oh my gosh. And so the thing I was hesitant to say, but I'm going to go ahead and say it. You would be, I hope you'll take this right, Sam. You'll be like the best Yankee Otosan. Do you know what I'm talking about, Sam? Do you know, you've seen those guys out there, right? Those Yankee dads. They've got their garu wife. You know what I'm talking about? You see them sometimes. You'll see them at like Sukiya, right? Or not Sukiya, but like at the conveyor belt sushi place, the Sukiya row or whatever it's called. You know, Adam Boy. And they'll be at the table, and there's the dad. He's got the hair, and his wife, and his wife, and they got like 5 kids, and they got like stacks of sushi, and they're having the most fun of anybody in that whole restaurant. And you know that on the weekends they've got their lawn chairs. They're down at the river having a barbecue. Somewhere out in that parking lot is a Toyota Hi-Ace with some cool rims on it, some nice accessories. And it's a great, and sure, they might be living kind of a challenging life because they're divergent from the norm here in Japan, but those kids are getting a hell of an upbringing. See, but you would bring to that's your character, right? You would have that dynamic, outwardly character. I'm not calling you a Yankee or anything like that, although I guess you are, literally in every way, right? I hope my meaning is coming across, Sam. I think you'd make a great dad. Damn right. Yankee Oto-san. I'm glad you get my drift. I'm sure you've seen them out, those families out there, right? That for whatever else is going on in their life, those Yankee families seem to be having a lot more fun than just about anybody else. And on that interesting note, the Yankee Oto-san note, I'm going to sign off 52 minutes in. This little boy and I, my little Rudy and I, are going to head into the mountains now and go find an akia to share. That'll be on the Retiring in Japan video for tomorrow, and then it will be also as a standalone video probably later, early next week. Thanks for joining me, everybody. Wishing you all the best, and be safe but not too safe. And to Yankee Oto-san Tikio Sam, I look forward to the day that you become a father. I think the world would be a better place for children raised by you. Okay, take care, everybody. Bye-bye.